Yo, how's it going everyone? I hope you all are having a wonderful day. I'm Ames, and in this video, I'm gonna tell you guys about Weekly Shonen Jump's second most popular manga behind One Piece, Sakamoto Days. Now I'm getting this information from the website Jajanken.net. It's a website where they gather Shonen Jump's weekly popularity polls and then make it into a convenient little chart for everyone to see. If you guys want to see the poll for yourself, I'll leave a link to the website in the description down below. Now the website had this convenient little table which ranked the mangas based on the average of their ranking from the past 8 weeks. Now I discovered this website when I was checking the popularity of some of the other series I covered on the channel. And immediately what stood out to me was Sakamoto Days was ranked 2. Now this was surprising because I had always assumed Jujutsu Kaisen was second, and so at first I thought it was just Sakamoto Days was in a really popular arc. But Sakamoto Days has been in the top 5 consistently on a weekly basis. So this got me curious as to why it was so popular. And so I started reading it and almost immediately got hooked on it. The story is about Taro Sakamoto, who is the greatest assassin in the world, who fell in love, retired, got married, had a kid, and then opened up a store. So now he's just an overweight store clerk with extraordinary skills. So the premise alone made me assume that it was a comedy gag manga that would have the occasional action scene. You know, something similar to Gintama, which has a really good story, a lot of awesome action scenes, but the main selling factor is the comedy. That's what I thought I was going to read. But no, what I read was something more akin to a John Wick with some really good comedic timing. I mean, the story was top tier, the characters are all amazingly written, and the action scenes are awe-inspiring. So much so that I was actually happy I read this late, because if I read this before reading something like Kill Blue, which has a very similar premise, I for sure would not have liked Kill Blue as much as I did. Seeing as how they both revolve around assassins trying to live ordinary lives, I would have definitely been trying to compare the two, even though the stories are nothing alike. Kill Blue leans more towards the comedic aspects of the story rather than the action, which actually does work for Kill Blue. It's much better when it's focusing on its comedic aspects rather than the super serious storyline, because it's all over the place when it tries to be serious. If it just focuses on the comedy, then the sporadic storyline makes a lot more sense. Whereas with Sakamoto Days, the story is far more consistent and cohesive. Each event leads into the next one fluently. Each arc is connected and intertwined to the previous one. So when something completely crazy or random happens, it's connected to something that had previously occurred, which is why the series has been consistently entertaining throughout its runtime. Like, I genuinely do not believe there has been a single dull moment in this entire story so far. Even the little intermission sections between arcs builds up a lot of tension and hype for what's to come. This is definitely one of the best spy/assassin stories I've ever read, or even watched. There are some Hollywood level movies that do not compare to this. Not just simply in terms of action, but in terms of story and world building as well. Now, I cannot attest to this being better than Jujutsu Kaisen. I can only state it's ranked higher on this website, because I have not been reading the Jujutsu Kaisen manga. I've been enjoying the anime way too much to spoil it for me by reading the manga, because I know myself, the moment I start reading the manga, I'm gonna lose all interest in the anime. So I currently have no intention of reading it, and as such, I cannot say for certain that Sakamoto Days is better. Now, despite this being the author's, Yuto Suzuki's, first official publication, it's not their first manga they made. They've had several one-shots come out, one of which being the one-shot for this manga, but there were still a couple others beside it. So despite this being their first major publication, they churned out an amazing story, one that would make anyone believe that they are an experienced writer. The fact that the author could write a character like Sakamoto, who is the world's greatest assassin who retired to live a comfy family life, have him be the center of the story, but not the most entertaining character. This manga has such a colorful array of characters that every single one catches your eye, and they each have their own unique little quirk that makes them lovable and entertaining to watch. Every single character brings something unique and entertaining to the table, so much so that even the main character gets overshadowed by them sometimes. The fact that every single character can be their own protagonist in their own right is a testament to how well this story is written. Even when the author decides to start focusing on another character, you're still vastly entertained because of how well they're written. You can genuinely believe that they are now the protagonist. You learn everything about them and follow their own stories, their own mindset, their own philosophy for the situation they are in. They all play such an important role that if you removed one of the supporting characters, antagonists, or even just a random side character, they would leave such a massive hole in the story. Every character's presence influences how the protagonist acts. If one were to go missing, it would change the story completely. That's just the type of person Sakamoto is. Every person he meets influences how he acts, including his enemies. Since Sakamoto has a no-killing policy, mainly because of his wife, he always lets his opponents live at the end, and even causes them to change the way they view the world, which sets up a really interesting dynamic with the main antagonist. Because the main antagonist is so dead set in his philosophy, it's going to be difficult watching Sakamoto change it. However, the antagonist is not purely evil, neither is he chaotic good. That's the interesting thing about Sakamoto Days. No character is purely good or evil. Because they are assassins, they kill people for a living. But they're not entirely evil either, because they're all killing for a reason. There are some characters who just kill just for the fun of it, but the main characters, the one who primarily drive the story, they kill to preserve the peace or kill those who seek to do harm, which is very hypocritical because they themselves are doing something bad for the sake of good, but they don't view themselves as being good. They are killers straight up, but they're doing it for a good reason, but they believe that that doesn't make them inherently good. There are even a couple of characters who recognize themselves as being evil and do believe that one day they themselves are going to be judged for it, but they continue to kill because they believe that their killing serves a grand purpose. For every person they kill, they preserve one more day of peace. They are the necessary evil that this world needs. The fact that multiple characters have these philosophies and yet still come off as being completely different people with their own unique dynamics is something that Sakamoto Days does really well. In all honesty, I think Sakamoto Days is good enough to compete with One Piece for the #1 spot. Granted, I don't think it would actually ever overtake One Piece and take that top spot. On a weekly basis, it has, and it can do it consistently, just not to the point where the overall rankings will change. Especially where the story is at the moment. It still has plenty of room to continue growing despite it reaching such a high level. There's definitely some room for the author to experiment and try out some new things without it completely affecting the overall story. It may affect it on a weekly basis without diminishing the overall popularity. Who knows, maybe in a couple of years, it could end up becoming the #1 manga in Weekly Shonen Jump. But as of right now, it holds that #2 spot. And I can't see Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia, Black Clover is no longer in Weekly Shonen Jump, so that's out of the question. Some of the new ones like Blue Box, Martial Master Asumi, I don't think any of those are gonna ever overtake it. To be honest, the only one outside of Jujutsu Kaisen that I would consider overtaking it for the #2 spot would have been Undead Unluck, but it doesn't seem to be as popular as I thought it would, especially with it receiving an anime adaptation as quickly as it did. Speaking of anime adaptations, I am surprised Sakamoto Days hasn't received one yet. The story is so well written, it will instantly draw in a lot of views. I think the only thing holding anime studios back from actually making an adaptation is the high level of action scenes. If a studio wants to adapt it, they have to be very careful with how they animate it. If they try to go too heavy on the CGI in order to have more fluid animations, it might diminish from the quality of the shot, which is what I believe happened with the Chainsaw Man anime. The heavy use of the CGI caused it to lose some fans. Despite the story being overall good and a relative success, the studio doesn't have any plans of making a second season. That could be one of the things holding anime studios back from making an adaptation of Sakamoto Days. The high level of action scenes could be very difficult to adapt. So for those of you holding your breath, I'd say don't count on it. It probably won't get an anime adaptation anytime soon, unless there's a studio secretly working on it and they just haven't announced it yet. Because at this point, if it hasn't received an announcement for an adaptation, it probably wouldn't receive one at all. Because the issue would not be the fact of popularity or relative views. It's going to be how much is it going to cost the studio to make. And frankly, I think studios don't want to spend a lot of money for a difficult project such as this and end up not reaching the goal they expected for it. So for now, Sakamoto Days just has to contend with being Weekly Shonen Jump's second most popular manga behind One Piece. And to all of you who are doubting its quality, read it for yourself. Trust me, you are going to enjoy this series. And with that, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and remember to keep having fun. See ya!